Game Cooker US Rocks VR here, back again. Um, Let me just see if my video is up here. My phone is interfering with my headset. Video is up here. It's very weird. I wonder if the Bluetooth signal is interfering with it or something. Anyway, it seems like it's okay. Hey, Tom. Back again. Alright, so this is just a, kind of a everyday person kind of a talk. Let me turn this down. The past couple months have been kind of, or at least from September, I guess, it's been kind of crazy when it comes to talking about video cards, processors, Nvidia, AMD, and Intel. So, most people already know probably a lot of information about all those three subjects, but I'm just trying to have like my own little talk here and throw in my 2 cents, and maybe bring up some things that I haven't really been hearing a whole lot of from the YouTubers and tech sites. Now it seems like they're kind of picking up on it now, but I was saying stuff, a while back. So where to start? That's a good question. So I just titled, I just Nvidia, AMD, and Intel. I called them the three bears. Because sometimes it feels like, we're just we're Goldilocks. We're just everyday people just trying to survive. And just have fun and have a good time and whatever. I mean, I don't remember the original story in its fullest, but I think the original story, Goldilocks gets killed, by the three bears. So, it's kind of like how we feel as gamers and, content creators and developers. Feel like we're kind of in between, and with how volatile social media is these days, it just makes it that much more like, intense and stressful, I guess you could say, kind of blown out of proportion. Oh, that's good, Tom. Your brother got a Vive. Awesome. Well, I hope you try it, because you'll like it. If he's got a good PC, it'll run real nice. So what I did here is I'm just going to basically just kind of go over a few things as quickly as possible. I'm not trying to like, bring up anything new here except for my own opinions. So I found this little kind of thing here on the Newegg business. Sorry about my video here. It's Newegg business, smart buyer components, 22 game-changing video cards over the years. Now most of these things I think on here he's listing is probably for professional use. So like here, they talk about the graphics on IBM 5150 monochrome monitor, 1981, 720 by 350 pixels. And then the Intel ISBX 275, and Intel, look at that. They had a graphics card way back when. We all forgot, didn't we? It was 256 by 256, and it cost $1,000. Okay, $1,000. Now I'm going to go over pricing in a little bit between AMD and Nvidia. So 1983. This is American dollars, so if you paid $1,000 for the item, that would be worth $2,534 today. This may not be a totally accurate calculator, although it's supposed to be. I don't know how reputable the site is, but I'm putting all these down on the links. Um, so people were willing to fork out $1,000 for a graphics card, which would be like us paying $2,534 today, and that was at 256 by 256 resolution. I mean, that is like ridiculous. That's color. It says here monochrome. It'll do 512 by 512. So that's pretty whacked out, huh? And then ATI, I guess, yeah, they existed way back then. VGA Wonder. Hey, Average Hunter, how's it going, man? Nice seeing you, buddy. In 1988, this could do 800 by 600 at 16-bit, and it retailed for $449, which would have cost $1,138 today. And again, 16-bit, only 800 by 600 resolution. Insane, huh? Now fast forward to 1995, NVIDIA NV1. It did 1200 by 600. I'm talking about technology right now, Average Hunter and Tom. And if you want to get on Discord, Average, I'm in. 1200 by 600 in 1995. It doesn't tell you the price, though, does it? Let's see here. Let's see how much that thing costs. Let's look that up. Ah, why isn't it highlighting? My mouse is being finicky. Come on. Copy. Okay, so we'll say price of. When released. Wow, that's surprising. So that would be $199. So that would be like paying $504 today. For a card that gave you 1200 by 600. And it said it was doomed by the release of DirectX 1. Okay, so that one was irrelevant, I guess. So here ATI comes back in, ATI Rage 1. Just giving an idea here of the prices that we would be paying today if we bought these today. Maybe we should put it like that. Let's try that. What happened? Is somebody trying to get in Discord? You guys hear me? Maybe we should put this like that. Let's try that. What happened? Okay. I guess you're still hearing me. That wasn't me, I guess. So let's see. What's the price of this thing? Not always easy to find prices here, is it? I'm doing this for a reason, because I'm going to work my way up to something later. So, but apparently it's not really easy. Oh, here we go. Also $199. So that would be like paying. Well, that's a Rage Fury, whatever that is. When did that come out?
Hello.
Hey, who's that?
Hunter.
What's up?
I'm tired. It's like 2:31 a.m. in the morning. 2:35 actually.
Yeah, it's 3:35 here, so it doesn't say when this came out.
I just laid down and I noticed you were live, so I thought I'd tune in for a moment.
Yeah, this is like I'm just talking about um, Nvidia, AMD, and Intel because there's been a lot of like smack talk going around between
The two.
the fanboys and girls over all this stuff. So I'm trying to make my own point here that not many people talk about. So we'll just say it was $199 for that one. Um, Although that was for the Fury, so I'm not sure what that was. Then of course you have 3D FX. It's a little behind here, I guess, from where you're hearing me. And how much was that? I should know, I bought one of those. Brand new.
I need to go out and see if I can buy a new graphics card and have somebody put it in for at least like 500, or I could just go out and buy a totally new PC for like 1069 plus a keyboard and mouse is going to cost me about 1300.
Hmm. You didn't see my video earlier, did you?
About what?
My PC build parts I was showing off.
Nah,
Yeah. I got
was
a 2080 Ti.
See, I was looking at a cyber power to see what maybe I could get something good out of those.
How much money you got to spend?
Well, I'm not looking to buy one right now. I'm just like
Oh.
once I get the money saved up, like I'm need to know like what's good about it.
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know how much money you have or whatever, or who's going to pay for it, but um,
Like this is a
I wouldn't normally suggest this, but what kind of a graphics card do you have now?
GTX 730.
Oh, okay, that's a low end. Okay. Um, well, Walmart has um, HP Omen pre-built desktop computers, and I think they have a well, I think it was originally 1500, but I think it might be cheaper now. It might be on like going down in price because they probably want to get rid of them. But that one has a pretty decent um, spec. It's got I believe it's a GTX 1060 6 gig or a 1070 8 gig, and a Core i7 8700 processor.
This is the one I was
Which is six
this
cores. Um, it's not multi-threaded, but it still has the six cores, so so it definitely will run games no problem.
this is
Um,
the one I was looking at. It's a cyber power game master desktop. AMD Ryzen 3 8 gig memory, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060, 120 gigabyte solid state drive plus 1 terabyte hard drive.
can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
I don't know what that blipping is. How much is the what processor again?
It's got a AMD Ryzen 3 is what it says, and then it's got 8 gigs of memory.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I would still suggest the Omen because it's got 16 gigs of memory. It's got the GTX 1060 6 gig or the 1070, I forget. Um,
It,
and it
this
had a
is
pretty
a
decent. It had a solid state drive and a hard drive. Um,
See, like this comes
and
with a
and and
mouse.
like I said, it had the Core i7 8700, which I would rather have that than a Ryzen 3. Um, of course,
Like
that would probably be a lot more money. Of course, because the Ryzen 3 chips don't really cost much at all. I mean, it would still be a gaming rig, but I always try to go for a decent mid-range one, you know, rather than like a low end, you know, because at least that's a little more future-proof. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, all right. So anyway, I'm going to continue my talk here. Um, so Nvidia brought out the Riva TNT. Boy, this brings back lots of memories, man. I had a lot of these cards.
If you don't see what I put in chat, I said great learning. I said ooh technology learning on my 1 week off from school.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had like some of these cards. I bought the 3DFX Voodoo, um, the dual chip one. They had two Intel chips on it to run the graphics processing, which because that's how they did it back then. There was like no dedicated GPU at the time. So
I'll be
what
on
I'm
here.
doing here though is I'm trying to find out the prices, and then I'm looking in the calculator here to see how much it would be today, just as a reference, you know. So we'll just go with the 299 model here. Oh,
I'm
I
only
didn't change the dates here though. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't even
I ain't
thinking
gonna
about
be
that.
I'm gonna be on here for like 20 more minutes, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit the hay.
So when was this released?
Um, are
This was
you
released in 1998. Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't change the dates here before.
are you free
Oops.
tomorrow?
Um, probably. Oh, I don't know. I can't even tell you, man. I'm really not like. I'm just like bogged down with a whole bunch of stuff in real life and don't have any free time really. That's why I'm sitting here at 4 o'clock in the morning almost.
You
So,
getting ready to leave?
so this 3D FX Voodoo 2 SLI. Well, like I said, yeah, like I said, I'm trying to do a live stream here on specifics. So,
That's fine.
you know, you know, get in the conversation though. We're talking about. I don't know if you've heard a lot about the arguments everybody's having about like Nvidia price is too high. You know, they were disappointed with the RTX launch and all that stuff. So that's what I'm trying to focus on that here. Um,
Tom had to go.
all right. So the 3DFX Voodoo 2 SLI was equivalent to $463 today, and you could only get 800 by 600 3D. So
Um, I have not seen the arguments that
okay,
people have
well,
been having.
yeah. I always follow like technology, so um, I just think it was pretty silly, like a lot of stuff that people were saying. So,
Is
so right here, I'm just going through the years of how much the video cards cost and actually what they were capable of, though. You know what I mean? I don't really care about like how advanced the technology was, but I'm just going down a list here of what people would have paid for cards if they, bought cards. Now here's the Voodoo 3. I wonder how much that was. That had to be expensive. So, I'm kind of talking ahead from what the video is showing, so it's a little difficult. I wish it was like real time live streaming. I guess there is, but you have to pay for it. So this one they're saying is only, let me see, price at launch.
um,
I don't think these prices are actually correct.
it was Nvidia and what was arguing about?
No, but it wasn't Nvidia, it was people. They were just disappointed at the RTX launch because they
I just
said the
said,
cards were too expensive. They weren't really performing as high as they were expecting.
well, they're supposed to be high.
Yada yada yada.
If you want a high quality in game, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. There's just that. If you can't just go out and buy a cheap piece of crap and expect to play every single game on it.
Yeah, I know, but people were saying that it was just not the price per performance was not there compared to um, the 10 series cards.
Well, I know I wasn't in here long, but I'm gonna try and watch some more YouTube before I have to hit the bed. So I might tune back in before I, you know, fall asleep, but I'm gonna lay on my bed because of
Yeah,
my
that's
legs.
fine.
My back has been killing me all day. I have done nothing to my back, but all right.
All right, well, if you want to get in on the chat, go for it, you know.
All right. Um, if you're on tomorrow and you feel like playing some games, just text me
Yeah,
or just
I'll
anytime.
probably get on Primal if well, you'll see me on Primal probably first, so you'll know that I'm playing if I actually get on that game.
Hmm.
You know?
Piece of
I
trash,
mean, I
dude.
don't know if we'll play that one for long, but that'll be like a
A
signal, I
warm up.
guess, basically.
All right. I'll catch you later.
All right, man.
Take it easy.
All right, so they're not making this easy for me. I was trying to just find a price list from somewhere, but there was really nothing that I found right offhand. Um, so Voodoo 3 is it going to say the price here? That's what we want, the price. Wiki's got everything else but the price. So the Voodoo 3 came out in 1999, but that's not giving me the price. Unless I'm missing it here somewhere. It's getting really cold out. Just can't get a price. 3DX, 3DFX Voodoo 3 price at launch. So what about the 1000? Let's try that. They're selling them on eBay, that's funny. For $90. Alright, well I'm gonna have to skip that one because it's just not coming up. I wish he would have put the price here at launch. So Nvidia GeForce 256 DDR. Let's see what we can get a price for that. 200 and so $249, I guess. That was in 1999. So that would be $377. And it was capable of doing 2046 by 1536. Look at that, 32 megs or 64. I think he meant to put megabytes there. I can't even believe that. That's crazy. GeForce GTS. Let's see if they have that. Wow. $500? No, GeForce 2 Ultra. Hmm. Oh, here it is. $400. Wow. 400 for the GTS, which would be 606, and 500 for the Ultra, which is 757. Shoot. So see, cards were pretty freaking expensive back then. You know, and you have to factor in that the wages were much. This is I put the wrong year in. Sorry, I keep forgetting to change the year. All right, so 732 for the Ultra, and then 400, which would be 586. So you know, that was a lot of money to pay for a graphics card in 2000. You know. Oh, whoops. So ATI Radeon DDR. So let's see. Let's do the 7200. I don't know if that's like the best one or not. This guy, I think these are more professional cards though, I think, but I'm not sure. Let's see how much that is. 7200, right? What was that? R6. Hmm. 7200, let's see. That was in 2000. Alright, so let's oh, the Pro. Here's a 9700 Pro. That was a monster card back then, man. Here, let's do NVIDIA GeForce 3. Ti. Let's try that one. That was 2001. Ti. Again, some of these prices may be inaccurate. I don't know if they are or not, but the Chameleon, yeah, I remember that one too. Where is it? They don't have it written down here. So they have the Ti 200 and the Ti 500. Let's go with the Ti 500 since that's probably the top card. Come on. $499. When did that release? 2001. So $499. 2001. That's $711. So it was DirectX 8 compliant. It was the first one, I guess. And also ran the Xbox. Oh, nice. And I think I already did the 97 Pro. I think it was only $399. Which actually wasn't a bad price if you're talking about, you know, the top card. I remember when this came out because I really wanted one so bad. I was like, I couldn't afford it. Oh yeah, let me put price at launch here. I keep forgetting. Launch price. It says here 299, but I think it was 399. Yeah, 399 in 2002? $399. Now that was the base, the list price. It was more money when you bought the third party cards or whatever. That was just a suggested price, I guess. So that would be $559. So we all know what the 97 Pro did, man. That was really nice. 128-bit color depths, 8 times AGP support, DirectX 9. Yeah, I remember that one. And then came along the GeForce 6. So I'm just going to skip up to the 6800 GTS. Because, I mean, that's, if we're talking about top-end cards, I think it was the GTS. Nvidia GeForce 6 6800. I think it was a GT. Was it GTX? Oh, Ultra. That's what they called it. That's right. 6800 Ultra. I forgot they called their cards Ultra back then. The 57. Actually, the 5700 Ultra or 5800 Ultra was first. Let's see how much that costs. I think that was the first one. $399, huh? 2003. So that's the same price pretty much. 547, yeah. So how much was the 6800 Ultra? I mean, it's worth looking, you know, because everybody's kind of like crying over the prices, you know, of the RTX cards, and it's just, I don't really like going on other people's sites here, but that's why I'd rather have just Wiki. $500. So we'll say $499. In what year is that? What year was this article? 2004. So I'll just guess that it was 2004. Yeah, it says 2004. Okay. So 2004. 499, I guess. Is that what they said? What is going on with my headset? No connection. All right, Tom, take it easy. Yeah, nearly 500. So that would be $666 you'd be paying for a card for the 6800 Ultra. That was a monster. Okay, so let's move on. So the GeForce 8800, we're going to skip a little farther ahead here. So we're going to do the 4870 X2. Oop. Um, 4870, that's right. So how much was that thing? That was a dual GPU. So here it says 559. So 550, and when was that now? 2008. $550 for a dual GPU card. That was 644 bucks. And it used GDDR5. And then, of course, in 2013, a GTX Titan. We already know what that probably cost. Hee. Yeah, baby. Look at that. Woo! $1,000. Go, Nvidia. Oh my God. Goodness. 999. That would be 1,082 today. But that was the fastest card on the planet at the time. So, so we have to kind of look up again here at the AMD lineup here. So I think it was their, what was their other dual GPU card that they had? I think that was in the, what was that, the 290 or something? Let's see. I don't remember because I didn't buy one. It's not really showing the actual numbers here. Let me see. Or was it the 3000? See, 3000, 300 I mean. Yeah, I think it might have been a 300 series. What was it, 390 or something? Pro Duo. So that was it, this one, oh, the Radeon, or, right, the Fury, I guess it is, right? No? Let me see. What's it got here? Whew. 1,499. I don't think I can copy this. It's gonna have all kinds of gibberish. Yep. Is this like a developer card or something? So that was 2016, I guess. And that was, oh, I hate when it does that. $1,499. Wow, that's crazy. 2016, I think I said. $1,576. I guess it had two GPUs on it apparently. I'm assuming since it says two times 4 gigabytes. So it had 8 gigabytes of VRAM on it with 2 GPU units. Wow. So there you go, man. You know, AMD did it too. But I think I remember that thing being really hot. It was hard to keep cool, I think, wasn't it? And then, of course, there's no reason to even talk about the RX series. I mean, it's just kind of a dud. I mean, Vega, the Radeon RX Vega 64 Liquid, 699. I mean, that's 2017, so that's not going to be really much difference. So it's $719, but that's really not even, it's just in line with the 1080 or whatever, you know. So there you have it, man. So I just wanted to go over that because, you know, everybody's complaining about the price of the processors. I mean, you know, when you put a lot of junk on the card, itself, it's going to cost a lot of money, And, really, like if you look at this thing here, this whatever Fury series, even the regular one was $649. So I mean that's a lot of money in 216. So, but that was only one chip, one GPU. So all they did was put 2 of these on one chip. 649 times 2. Where's the calculator here? Whoa, what in the world? I mean, I could probably do that in my head, but I'm just tired right now. That's $1,298. So they charged more than it would cost to buy one card 2 times. So that wasn't a good deal. And all they were doing was putting 2 GPUs on there. They weren't putting any extra, technology or anything. You know what I'm saying? So it was just nothing. It was nothing new. It was just old stuff. Just 2 of them. Whereas the RTX series from Nvidia is all new technology. I mean, for the most part. I mean, obviously it's a video card, but they kind of made improvements all around on it, along with putting the Turing on there and the ray tracing cores or whatever you call them. So I don't even have to look at the Nvidia side now. I think you pretty much saw it. Now, of course, I know you guys are going to probably have arguments about I didn't look at the right chips and all that stuff. I mean, I'm pretty much looking at the top of the series there. So you can see that, AMD charged a lot of money for their top cards too when they had them. What people don't see today is Vega, to me, is not a top card. It isn't. To me, it's a mid-range, a good mid-range card. It doesn't beat the 1080. It barely beats the 1070. And it doesn't come close to the 1080 Ti. So I mean, it's all nice that we can complain and whine about the prices, but when AMD had top cards, they charged too out of the, they weren't afraid to make you pay a premium. So I think people are just forgetting that fact because AMD hasn't really brought out a good card in like what, 5 years? Well, not 5 years. Um, well over 2 years, you know. So, and that wasn't even bringing out like a new architecture or anything. That was just slapping two GPU units on one card. So, for 14.99. Woohoo! That's a lot of money. So the let's do this. I wish I had that card again. Crap. What the heck was that thing called? Let me see. Let me go RTX 2080 Ti versus. Let me see if I still have it here. Yes, I do. Let's see how they compare. Let me see here. What's going on here? Why is it showing that? Did I write something wrong here? Let's see if they have the specs here. It's getting really cold out here. I am chilly. Hmm. Now, of course, this has less RAM and all that, but I'm just, curious, about the how they stack up against performance-wise for $1,499 card. The RTX 2080 Ti is a couple $100 cheaper than that one was. And that's only 2 years ago, it says here. Well, like, 2.5 years ago now. So obviously they don't really compare, but price-wise they compare. So I don't know if they're going to have benchmarks. So here they so here it says the Pro Duo is actually has more throughput. The pixel rate for the RTX has more than there. Texel rate 512, and Radeon Pro Duo does 16,384 gigaflops. I would like to see a real world benchmarks. So they don't have like nobody has one of these cards apparently. I would like to see anybody out there, if they have one, to test it against the RTX 2080 Ti. But again, you're talking about two GPUs, going up against one card. And, you could argue that they're similar, because I don't think that this is going to perform as good as this one. I mean, in real life, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to see these, like, throughputs. But, like, this doesn't mean anything. This 1024 gigabits a second. Because you can look at the RTX cards against the 10 series cards, and even though some of them are similar, the RTX is much faster. So I don't really know how this stuff kind of works together, you know what I'm saying? I would imagine you have to go by like the texel rate and the pixel rate. So this one beats out in the pixel rate, more pixels, which is of course good, I'm sure. and then the texel rate, which is, this one's 112 more gigatexels more, but the the TI really is close to that. And again, I don't know about the gigaflops. I mean, I understand what that means, but when it comes to video cards, you know, I'm not sure you can really like figure out what's actually faster, like performance-wise, frame rates, and all that stuff. So, it'd be nice to see somebody actually. I wonder if they have any for sale. They have a regular Pro Duo. Let me see. Okay, so pixel rate's still higher on this one. The gigatexels are lower. Memory bandwidth is much lower. Oh, because it's got the oh, HBM. Okay, that's why. I thought the 5X was faster. Hmm. Oh, but again, this has two GPUs on one, so yeah, I mean, I thought that was just a regular thing, but that's why it's called the Pro Duo. Duh. Anyway, yeah. I thought that was the regular Fury, actually. Yeah, so I mean, it's similar. The Titan XP is certainly not as powerful. Not by a long shot there. So what about the Titan X Pascal? Again, you got two GPUs up against one monster GPU. No clear winner, it says. That's interesting. So again here, pixel rate is more. Gigatexels not quite as much. Memory bandwidth much less. And 10,157 versus 16,384. How does a 2080 compare to this one? That one's much less. I need to get back to that 2080 Ti one. Let me see. Let me look at that again. Here it is. So two GPUs up against one. Boy, look at that. 4096 bit. That is crazy. That's what really gives it a punch, probably. So 408 versus 512 and 13,000 versus 16,000. So yeah. And then of course you're talking about two processors, so or two sets of combined RAM speed at 1024. So yeah, still $1,499. That's still a lot of money, man. All right. So anyway, so I already kind of sort of proved my point about the prices. Now, of course I would. Uh-oh, what happened? I closed out of the window. I do admit that traditionally, it seems like ATI and AMD had better prices on their, high-end cards, but they were still pretty expensive, and some of them were really expensive. So, occasionally. So, I mean, everybody's going to take advantage of it, you know. If they got a top-end card, then they're going to charge money. So, you know, AMD's just been out of the game for so long when it comes to top-tier cards. And, you know, I really wasn't that impressed with the dual GPU cards anyway, because that's kind of cheating. You know, because if you put two 2080 Ti chips on one card, I mean, if that were even possible, probably isn't possible because it's so big. I mean, that would be just a ridiculous amount of throughput. I mean, even if you put two 1080 chips on one board, that would be crazy. So, you know, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, AMD really doesn't compete. I mean, so anyway, so enough of that. So the prices, in my opinion, are really debunked. I mean, people shouldn't be complaining about the RTX series for two reasons. If AMD was in the game, they'd be charging a lot of money too. Let's just be honest. You know, it may not be quite as high as Nvidia, but I'm sure it would be pretty close. You know, within $100 or less. Um, Vega kind of proved that. You know. Um, so you know, and right now AMD doesn't really have the technology anyway that's going to compete with Nvidia. So I mean, it's kind of irrelevant to really make any kind of assessment. I mean, really, what people are doing is they're comparing the 10 series to the RTX series, and in my personal opinion, those two should be not compared to each other at all. I think that was Nvidia's big mistake, how they named the RTX series. They should have just went with a whole different naming scheme, you know. In fact, they should have said the RTX, you know, whatever, 900. You know, they should have just flipped again, you know, and said the, you know, 900 series or something. I don't know, anything, any other name but the 2000, you know. And they shouldn't have said 2080, 2080 Ti, 2070. Because they're really it's a different card. It's a different everything, you know. It's just different. The only thing I think is the same is how large the die is. Or maybe they went from 14 to 12. I don't know. I didn't look at the specs recently. Um, but you know, you got the tensor cores, you got the ray tracing cores, whatever those things are called. And, you know, and then you got the CUDA cores, and then I think they got something else on there. So they got like, and then they got the GDDR6, and then they also made it work a little more efficiently, I think. You know, they put the VR plugs in the back, they put all the other connectors in the back that you would need. So, you know, that's just my opinion. RTX is over here, GTX is over here. You know, they shouldn't be compared. They're totally different. And I'm sure the RTX cards were more expensive to make than the GTX cards. I mean, come on. You know, let's face it. You know, you're putting different cores on there. So, I mean, that's going to cost extra money. So, I just don't think people are being fair to Nvidia. Um, so that's how I'm looking at it. You know, the 2080 Ti, if you're going to compare them, you got to compare it to the 1080 Ti. You know, I know people don't want to hear that, but you have to give them that because there's more junk on the processor. You can't go price per performance because it's like when you buy a car, you can either buy the base model, which they never ever sell in most places, or you have to pay the extra $2,500 or more to get all the extra features. They're not just going to give them to you for free. I mean, and most times you're stuck with them anyway, because it's very rare that any dealer sells a base model car, at least around here in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So you're stuck paying more money, whether you want the junk or not, you know? So that's just the way it is, you know? And Nvidia was made a decision, and they said we're going to try to shoot for the future here since we have the technology. And they said they spent the past 10 years researching this. So, you know, that costs a lot of money, research and development. So you can't just like say, NVIDIA, give us all that stuff for free. You know, we don't care about the billions of dollars you spent on research and development. You know, just give it to us for free. I'm sorry to say, but that's not how a company works. You know. Um, Now let's talk about processors real quick because I got to get to sleep soon, and then I have to like wrap this up with my final conclusion. So here's the so we have the Ryzen 2700X, which is 8 cores, 16 threads. Um, I'm on the AMD site here, so they should be okay with me showing this, I would think. Um, let's see, where is it? Where are they? Why don't they just list them? Maybe I'm just not looking at the right place here. So I'm not going to look at Threadripper and all that because that really doesn't count. So is there a search here? 2700X. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so this looks like it's English. Alright, so everybody already knows about these, so I'm not really going to like reiterate it. This doesn't, so the 2700X works like a normal processor. It's not like the Threadripper where it's like separated memory, you know, um, connection and all that. So you can run all 8 cores at the same time, 16 threads if you need it while you're gaming. Because that's what the big argument was about the Intel testing. But it's only got a max boost clock of 4.3. And, you know, most of the tech sites that I saw said that a lot of times you can't really go any higher than that. In some cases you can, if you use water cooling, but getting it stable, at least from what I read and saw on YouTube, it's not really safe to go past that 4.3. So, you know, you're kind of limited there, okay? But of course, the price now for the 2700, let's go to Newegg, because that's pretty much a benchmark for what you're going to get. So let's do the 2700X. Now, it probably went down in price, maybe. So here it's $304. Okay? And then the motherboard for it. Here's a bundle package. Okay, so let's just say you don't want a really cheap motherboard, because why would you want one? If you're going to buy this chip, you should buy at least a half decent motherboard. So here's a bundle for, I mean, I would assume the Asus is, the Strix is going to be good. So 489 bucks for the processor and motherboard. Okay. Now, of course, the 9900X, which just came out, is an 8-core 16 thread processor. Um, Pretty much like the one, it's similar to the one I got in here. I mean, it's not the same, but it's, if you look at my system here, I have a 7820X, which is a 8-core 16 thread processor. And I think I got it clocked up to like 4.1 or something like that. Or actually, I just changed my settings in the BIOS, so it could be running at stock right now because I'm not doing any gaming. It'll turbo by itself. Alright, so let's put in the 9900X. So let's just say 500 with tax. You can get to 2700X. Alright, so it's not, I have to say Intel maybe. Why isn't it showing? Am I not saying the right thing here? Oh, X, duh. Yes, that's why. I'm thinking of the AMD still. Getting them crossed. Alright, so why isn't it showing here? So, they're probably all out. Why is it doing that? Okay, so do they have a bundle package here or not? Probably, oh, because they're pre-orders, so they're not going to have a bundle, I guess. So, Newegg has this for $579. Ooh. So how much are these 390 boards here? This is a Maximus, so that's probably a high-end board. Let me see here. Boy, I'm getting cold. Shivering. Alright, so let's just get an Aorus or whatever it's called. 289, so okay. So 289 plus 579, roughly the price is 289 plus 579 or whatever is close enough. 868. And then tax, whatever, I don't know how much tax everybody pays, but say we'll tack on another 7 times 8, 56, so talking about like $925. So it's quite a difference. So, that's 400 and some odd dollar difference. Or about a about a $400 difference. So, yeah, it's quite a difference. But the 9900K starts out with one core, I believe. Where is it? I don't know why it says it's 5 gigahertz max turbo. But I think the starting is why don't they have it? Let's look. What's the starting speed? Oh, so it still starts out at 3.6, but it goes easily up to 5 gigahertz. And then if you put water cooling on it, some people said that they can get it above that. So, I mean, it blows the 2700X out of the water. I mean, I don't know what these, you have to look at it at a standpoint of, gaming is one thing, but when you're multi-threading, that extra clock speed is going to help, And it does have the 2 megabytes cache per core. It's 5 gigahertz max turbo. But I think the starting is so Ryzen has this limitation here on the boost. Oh, this is 16 megabytes. Jesus. I'm looking at the wrong side here. Let's see. So what is this again? Not saying that it's not good, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so this has 16 megabytes of cache too. So, what about the heat? This is 95 watts. This one's 105 watts. Max temperature is 85 degrees. Probably about the same, I would imagine, for Intel. Let's see here. Doesn't say. I don't know what this T junction means. 100 degrees Celsius. Is that the hottest it can get or something? Is this the 9900 I'm looking at? Yeah. So they're comparable on that front, I guess. So the Intel is just a much faster chip frequency-wise. So, I think the 2700X makes good use of that RAM speed, though. But I mean, if you play with the motherboard on the Intel thing, you can get all the clocks up it too. So, like for me, I wouldn't use the cooler. I wouldn't use the cooler that the Ryzen came with. I would use a water cooler. So I'm still gonna spend that extra money. So that I don't know why people say, "Oh, it comes with a cooler. You don't have to buy one." Oh, come on. I can go to Micro Center and get a cooler for like 20 bucks, a really good one of those big thermal take ones. So I mean, that's not even like an argument. That's just something everybody should do. Put a better cooler on it, you know what I'm saying? So what was the last thing I wanted to talk about now? Again, I'm not really going into the technical aspects of anything. I understand that. I get it. Okay, so the Ryzen may have some advantages with the way it's built, and Intel has its advantages, But if you're going to be somebody who wants to really be future-proof, I mean, the 2700X will probably be good for a long time if you're just 1080p gaming, you know. But I like 4K gaming at a solid 60 hertz and bumping up everything on ultra. If there's physics, I turn all that stuff up. So for me, I'm gonna want to like get the most out of my processor. And then of course I'm live streaming, I'm video editing, I'm doing all that stuff, when I'm doing it. So, this is a good chip. I would never say it's a bad chip. It's a definitely good bang for your buck chip. But it just isn't in the same league, I don't think, as the 9900. That's just my opinion. I mean, even my 7820X, I was easily able to get it up to 4.7. And I only paid, well, with the motherboard bundle, I paid about $399 for the 7800X. 7820X, sorry. So that's 8 cores, 16 threads. And I easily got that up to 4.7 water cooled. So what can I say? You wait a little while, you'll get cheaper chips. But I do want to talk about AMD a little bit, because this is really the elephant in the room. The elephant is not the prices of Intel, it's not the prices of Nvidia, it's not the performance of Intel, it's not the performance of Nvidia. What I see as a big problem here, well, first I want to just explain something really fast. For many, many years, from when I started building PCs, I got Um, I bought a computer when I first went back to PC gaming, like in 1998 or whatever it was. Bought a computer, and it had, I guess it was considered a gaming computer back then. And I think I bought a video card to put in there though. And I bought Half-Life 2, and I bought Unreal Tournament. And when I saw those games after not gaming for 10 years, I didn't even touch a PC or a Mac since like 1989 or 1990. And then I got away from gaming altogether, didn't do any gaming anywhere, nothing. And then I bought a PC, put a video card in it, bought Half-Life 2, and Unreal Tournament, and it just blew me away. I mean, I couldn't believe like the surround sound effect that Half-Life had when you turned your head in the game. Like it had spatial sound, and it was a good story, and it was just like, wow, Jesus, where was I for the past 10 years, on Mars, um, in a hole somewhere? And then Unreal Tournament just kind of made me crazy because I couldn't believe the bots. They were smart. At least back then they were smart. They were saying things to me like when they killed me, and I could like command my teammates to follow me and protect me, and they would keep me alive. I mean, I was like, blew me away. Um, so when I went to do some research on buying some computer parts, um, I went with the Duron. It was a 1 gigahertz Duron processor, and I don't really remember the specs now with the video cards. I think I had a Voodoo card in it, I think, at the time, still. And I think I went and bought one of those dual processor Voodoo cards for that one. And man, that thing just ran so good. I mean, 1 gigahertz, it was like blowing games away. I mean, I could play anything with no problem. So from then on, I kind of just stuck with AMD. I was kind of like, an AMD guy. Not really a fanboy because I really still didn't know like what made Intel better or worse. Um, so I just knew that over the years that with Intel I knew what chips I didn't like the Celeron processor. That was trash, um, just garbage. And then of course I also learned that the onboard Intel graphics were trash. You know, and then when I started like fixing PCs for people and building PCs for people, or if somebody bought a computer and they said, "Man, I can't play any games," this says it has a whatever Intel called their what did they call their onboard chips? Intel Extreme Graphics, and that was just a big old lie. Um, Because you really couldn't play anything really good, with them extreme graphics when they first came out. Gosh, they were junk. So I think that turned a lot of people off to like PC gaming because they were just selling those PCs with Celeron processors, for like 300 bucks, and people were just buying them up at Walmart and wherever, Best Buy. Uh, I mean, I could just imagine somebody going, "Oh, I got a computer with extreme graphics. I can't wait to play my game." And then of course they weren't able to play them at high frame rates and stuff, so they were just trash. So anyway, I just kind of supported AMD all along the way. And all along that trip that I had with AMD up until 2 years ago. Um, I heard about Intel and I heard about how good their chips were and all this stuff. And every time I went to look at one, I was like, man, I really want to try one of their chips, but they're so expensive. Like AMD always sold their chips like, you can pretty much get them for 100 bucks. I mean, for the most part. It wasn't until they're like, uh, what was it, 8350, you know, could have been before that too, but I know for sure the 8350s when they first came out, you had to pay like over $200 for them, and the black editions and all that stuff. And then I forget what that other one's called. They had like a high edition one too that was like $300 or something like that. So, whereas Intel, was still selling like 4 cores or whatever it was, and still you had to pay like, whatever it was, 5, 6, $700 or $800 for it. And then if you wanted the 8-core chip, my God, they were selling for like what, $1,200 or something. So it was like way out of my reach all the time. But looking back now, AMD always was saying, "Oh, we're bringing out these nice chips and all that stuff," and I was only 1080p gaming, so it really didn't matter a whole lot, and I wasn't playing like competitive gaming, so I didn't really notice, the lag, I guess. And of course, I always bought like a decent video card, not a top end, but like the second or third down. So, I didn't really have too many problems putting my games on higher settings. So, um, but now looking back, I kept like listening to AMD and all the promises that they were making with the graphics cards. I mean, with the processors, and then and I just kind of bought into that, bought into it, bought into it, bought into it. Oh, they're so cheap and they're so good, and it's like all the while I'm hearing the Intel guys, saying, "Oh man, the AMD chips suck," Um, and little did I know how right they were. Because now looking back on it and looking at the specs and everything else and reading some older articles of people having trouble, and the thing that really got me to finally realize was VR, virtual reality. When I got my HTC Vive, I had an 8320, which I know that probably wasn't the best one to have, but irregardless, it was still an 8-core chip. So that's all I'm thinking. I'm thinking, oh, 8 cores should run VR with no problem. But, I didn't realize, like, the calculations and, how they program the chips versus Intel. Because, again, I knew about Intel, but I didn't know a lot about Intel. So I upgraded to a 970 card because I figured, well, maybe that's the problem. So I got the 970, and I was still getting a lot of reprojection from the VR games and stuff. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but you could notice it. It wasn't smooth. So I'm like, man, what's going on here? So after kind of putting up with that for a while, I kind of got sick of it, and I'm like, all right, well, let me. So finally, I said, let me try Intel and see if all this talk really means something. So I got a 7700K, and it was only a 4-core chip. 4 cores, 4 cores, right? Yeah, 4 cores, 8 threads. And man, as soon as I fired that thing up and got in my VR games, it was a world of difference. Phew. So I was like, man, like what a difference. Like, that 8320 chip I paid $100 and some for is just junk. So, of course, that wasn't going to be enough over time because then we got Fallout VR and some more complex games, so I had to upgrade to the 7820X, with the GTX 1070. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So a person like me who was always supporting AMD over the years, giving them support, giving them support, giving them support, giving them support. And I even tried some of their cards, and people were saying, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, anyway, all the ATI cards that I got, and especially after AMD took over, all the cards that I got, the drivers were just like trash. And I'm talking about the beginning drivers. Maybe not a year later, when they finally got them like working smoothly. But I either had driver problems, and I know it was drivers problems because I was looking it up online, and then or overheating problems on the cards. So I had a couple cards that died on me because they overheated, and then the other cards, just the drivers were not functioning properly, and I was getting all kinds of crazy artifacts in the games and blue screens and stuff like that. So, um, and I must have bought at least, I'm just guessing, 4 or 5 cards um, since AMD took over. I don't really remember how many ATI cards I bought. Um, but I think I think I bought a 70, what was that, a 70, I don't know, I don't remember what ATI card I bought, but ATI was pretty good. They didn't have too bad of driver problems, but I didn't really buy too many of them because I was kind of like I was into the 3DFX, so that's why I kind of like stuck with Nvidia because I was buying the Voodoo cards and they bought them out, so I just figured they're just taking the technology, you know, from there. So um, I'm not really a fanboy necessarily. It's just like if something works for me, I'll stick with it. That's all. It's not about who's better, who worse, mostly. Although I have tried, like I said, AMD's cards. Now maybe I just got unlucky and bought the models that were not so great, because obviously drivers work better sometimes with different models. So I get it. That's just my experience. That's all. So, that's why I didn't really buy the AMD ATI cards too much because I was just having so many problems with them. And Nvidia, for the most part, I never really had problems with their cards. I'm trying to think if any of the cards I ever bought died. Um, Not that I can really think of. I mean, I just pretty much played my computer for so long, like a year or so, before I built another one, and then I would sell that or give it to my son or give it to my daughter or give it to my ex-wife at that time. Um, so they never really died on me before I got rid of them. So, I can't really think of one that died on me. If I do, I'll definitely bring it up. Um, but again, I'm not really talking about who has better video cards, who doesn't. I already told you about how I felt about the RTX series. The Nvidia 10 series was a great series. I thought the prices were good and the performance was great. I mean, my 1070, I didn't pay that much for it. I actually bought it for the manufacturer's suggested price, which was under $400 at the time. So that thing ate everything for breakfast. I mean, I was playing stuff in 4K, you know. Maybe it wasn't running at the top frame per second, but 45 frames per second was good for me at the time. So I never really had any problem with that card, and when I upgraded that from my VR, ran everything perfectly. So um, I think the 10 series is a great. Uh, it was worth the money for me. Now you can look on paper and say price per performance, price per frame per second or whatever, but that means nothing to me. I mean, I want a card that works, does what I want it to do, and never have to worry about it. And Never had to worry about my 1070. When I upgraded to my 1080, it was still working perfectly fine. And I gave it to my son. He gave me back the 970 I had because I gave him the 970 when I got rid of that. So we kind of swapped because I needed to put that in my computer that I took 1070 out of. So, but here's what I want to end off here. And it's in the middle of the night here. It's what time is it now? 4:55 a.m. So I wasn't expecting anyone to be on. And I haven't been on my channel in a while, so I haven't really grew much. So if anybody comes and looks at this, um, feel free to leave comments or questions or your opinions. I mean, I don't mind talking about it. But here's the problem I see with AMD. Okay, I wrote this in a text. AMD, everybody thinks that it's AMD's processors against Intel and AMD's graphics cards against Nvidia. But, and again, I'm just a big dummy here. But it's really more complex than that. AMD is not just up against Intel, and they're not just up against Nvidia. Because there's a lot of other things that use graphics cards or GPUs, and there's a lot of other things that use other processors. So, and then of course you got the servers, right? That the companies use and certain people use, which Nvidia has their hand in and Intel has their hand in as well. So really AMD, it's not just AMD, it's not just two against one here. It's a whole bunch of things against one here. Okay, one is the available cash that the company has. Now, I haven't looked at it recently, so it could have changed, but the last time I looked, AMD doesn't have nearly as much cash as Nvidia has or Intel. Now, when I say available cash, I mean to put in research and development. That's what I'm saying. Nvidia has a lot of cash to play with, and so does Intel. Now, Ryzen might be getting better, or excuse me, AMD might be getting better because of the Ryzen revolution. Although I beg to differ on that. The first Ryzen chips were not that great, in my opinion. That was just a flop, in my opinion. It might have been a step forward for them, but it really wasn't a competitive item. Neither was the RX series in the graphics cards. Because really, in order to make money, you have to have high-end stuff, right? So that's just where the profit is, So, so they don't really have like a super competitive graphics card anymore. So, they're trying to sell their graphics cards cheaper than Nvidia. By a pretty good margin, but they don't perform well. They're just mid-range to low, you know what I mean? That's pretty much where they have it. And they don't even have a lot of varieties, I don't think. I mean, they got the Vega 56, Vega 64, they got the RX 480, RX 580. That's it. And I guess there's some iterations, the 470 or something, I don't know, but that can't be that good. That's really going down. So AMD's approach here the past couple years is to lower their prices, bring performance up a little bit, but keep their prices low. And in my personal opinion, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Because number one, they're not making as much profit, trying to grab I don't think they're going to grab 50% of the market share. I mean, let's be realistic here. I don't think they're going to ever get to that point, They might grab an extra 10 or 15% of the market share, which hooray for them. I mean, unless they have that already. I haven't looked at this the stats lately, but let's just say that they did grab an extra 10 or 15% of the market shares. Um, Big deal. I mean, big whoopee-doo. It doesn't mean anything because they're lowering their prices. So they're not making as much of a profit. So in order to really advance your company forward, you have to put a lot of money into research and development. Now, Nvidia, you can look at their numbers and see that they've been putting millions and billions in research and development. Now, they all have, but if you probably look at how much AMD has put in research and development versus how much Nvidia has, and how much Intel has over the past, say, 10 years, or whatever the case is, however far back you want to go, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. AMD can't sustain competing against Intel and Nvidia on all fronts. They just can't sustain that. Or at least I don't see how they can sustain that. To me, they're going to have to just focus their strength on one thing, on one thing only to really like squash the competition. And I really think that they need to do that to set a precedence, right? Because if everybody's attacking Intel and attacking Nvidia, when really the problem child here is AMD. AMD is the one who's not competing. It's not Nvidia's fault that AMD doesn't have high-end products. Yeah, they have Threadripper. I get it. Okay, fine. Intel's got high-end products, so that kick its butt. So I mean, it's again, it's not beating the competition. AMD has to beat the competition someplace, right? Because they have to set a precedence. They have to get in the news, like somebody said, before. I think PC Gamer finally somebody said that, and I'm like thinking that in my head, like, I've been saying this stuff for the past couple months of why everybody's arguing and complaining about Nvidia RTX is too expensive, Intel blah blah blah, they always charge too much for their processors. I mean, I'm kind of more on Nvidia's side than Intel. I can be honest with you about that. Intel needs to lower their prices. Okay, they can lower their prices. They've been using the same basic architecture now for forever. So, I don't have much sympathy for Intel, but I have sympathy for Nvidia on the RTX series because of what I already said. They put a lot of research and development into this ray tracing thing. They said they've been working on it for 10 years. Now, I don't know how much money they put in it total, but who cares? They're trying to innovate. They're trying to push technology forward. They're trying to finally bring some kind of improvement to graphics, I've been waiting for like realistic graphics to come for a long time now. We kept hearing about this and hearing about that and hearing about this and hearing about that, but every time I play a game, it looks like the same as the game that came out, 2 years ago when you put it on ultra settings. It really didn't look any better, Even the tessellation, they didn't really like change things too much. I mean, it made it better, but developers had to really like make their games to support that kind of stuff. So. And people should want innovation. They should want to push forward into the future, and stop this stagnation, People are just like complaining about stuff, and it's like, stop complaining. Yes, we all hurt. We all are poor in some respect. You know what I mean? I'm not rich. I mean, I get this stuff because I get lucky, and I believe that I get blessed at times. You know what I'm saying? So, but believe it or not, all this stuff I bargain shop for. Well, except for this thing, they wouldn't go down on the price with that, so nothing I could do about that. But, but this one here, it lists for 100 where was it? 34.99, and I ended up getting it for like, I don't know, I'm guessing like $20 cheaper. This 8800 8700K it lists for 359, and I think I paid about 300 for it with the motherboard bundle. This one here lists for 179. I could have got a 390 board, but I didn't. I figured I'll get a 370, upgrade the BIOS if I get a 9900. And I think this too, it's listing for 179, and I think I got like $20 off. This right here, I said earlier, 335 bucks, a 4K television, LG. So, I could have like went with a $500 model 4K, but why? I'm just using it for my computer. I don't really need fancy features. I just need it to be 4K HDR. And then I got this at BJ's as well. Now I could have went online and got these cheaper, but you can't always trust what you buy online. These are 4K compliant, as you can see. Yeah, so I mean everything. I mean I got Far Cry 5 when I bought this. It lists for $204, and I think Micro Center had it on sale for like 149 or something ridiculous like that. And you get a free game, a free $50 game. So, of course Microsoft Office can't do nothing about that. Same thing with this. This time I wanted to get 3200 RAM, and this listed for $399, which is actually a good price. But I think I ended up paying $349 for it, so that was a good deal. I got a refurbished cooler for my processor. That was only 60 bucks. So, I mean, along with like complaining, people are only looking at the base price of everything. And if you look around, you could get stuff cheaper. Now, a perfect example would be even this RTX card. Okay? Now, I was like, I'm never going to be able to afford one of these. Okay, but luckily I was able to get this, but that's another story. But before I got suggested to buy this, I was going to get the Gigabyte WindForce RTX 2080 Ti. It was an open box item. I guess somebody pre-ordered it. They took it home, and I guess they changed their mind and wanted to get their money back. Because some people do that. You invest a lot of money, and you're like, wow, whew. Maybe I'm having second thoughts about paying $1,200 for a video card. I understand. But it was obviously a brand new card because they just came out. So I knew it was a brand new card. But Micro Center had it as an open box item for $1,050. Okay, now that's still a lot of money, but that's really close to that $999, right? Because that's what they were saying they were going to cost at the conference, $999. So, I just kept looking and looking and looking and looking and looking and looking until finally, boom, that came up, and I was like, oh wow. And I even went to the Micro Center and knew that they had it. But, the guy talked me into getting this Asus one. I don't know. I hope I made a good choice there, but I ended up paying full price for that. Um, so, everybody's like wants competition, right? But to conclude here, AMD is not helping things out for themselves because their cash pool is just going to be smaller than Intel and Nvidia. And it's not because Nvidia and Intel are charging more money. Okay, yes, that is one reason. But the other reason is AMD can't keep up because they just can't dump money into, they just can't have their fingers in too many things at once. I mean, that's just common sense. But what they need to do is now if they can innovate something where yes they can make something cheaper and faster, but still and can actually knock Intel or Nvidia out of the top spot for something, then that would pay off for them in the end. But don't think for a minute that AMD has something over on Nvidia and Intel. I mean, when I hear people say that Nvidia and Intel is going to go under, or that they're getting knocked down, somehow by AMD, I mean, that's just, to me, just foolish talk. Unless AMD has some kind of secret they're hiding, they are never going to knock Intel out of the game or Nvidia, or even close to it. Because I can tell you this right now, Intel, ever since Ryzen was released, has probably been working on something behind the scenes. And look at Nvidia. Vega came out. Nvidia saw that it really wasn't all that it's cracked up to be. And they just said, well, maybe this is the time that we should throw our RTX stuff out there, because we had the Titan V they already had the Titan V, which had that stuff on it. And, and I think they were being generous doing this. Let's go ahead and put this on our consumer cards, and then we can see how it works out, Like if it's something, a feature that we want to keep putting on these cards, we'll see how well it's received and all that stuff. And of course, that'll give them a bigger testing base too, right? And developers will have incentive to make games with ray tracing in it. So, but unfortunately, all they got was complaints, and I don't know. I don't understand that personally. Let me show you something here for you, those of you who do not know. Okay, so here's a Titan V on Newegg right now. Now, of course, you probably could get it cheaper somewhere else, but whatever. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so here's a Titan V. See that? Now, is this the old Titan V? Or is it a new one? Is there only one? Doesn't tell you much about it, does it? the right Titan V? Doesn't tell you what it has on it. But anyway, this should be the one. And here it's selling for $3,900. Now, of course, I think the manufacturer, Nvidia suggested that it sell for 3,000. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So we'll go with 3,000, right? So this is basically has all the same stuff that the 2080 Ti has on it, right? So, and we already know what the price of that is, right? So the Founders Edition is $11.99. Okay, so let's go with that because it's probably about the same. I mean, the core clocks are lower on this, as a matter of fact. This is actually faster than this, but this has all the stuff. This has all the stuff that this has, except I guess it's better. Okay, so we're talking about. Where's the price here? 11. Oops, sorry. 11.99 versus say 3,000, right? So you're getting Titan V performance, or I should say Titan V plus performance. Okay, which costs $3,000. And I was looking at this in January because I was thinking about buying one, but I didn't realize how expensive they were. And they're not really for gaming anyway, although you can game on them, no problem. So in January of this year, they were still $3,000. So Nvidia brings out a card 6 months later, or well, whatever, 8 months later for $11.99, and it performs better. So how can you tell me that that's not a bargain? Now, it doesn't matter whether you use the ray tracing things or not. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Okay, because nobody's forcing you to buy the card. You have to compare it. You have to compare apples to apples, right? You can't even compare the RTX 2080 Ti to a 1080 Ti because it's two different things. They're two different monsters. But Nvidia here, in their generosity, at least I'm thinking generosity, because this used HBM2 and this uses the GDDR6, right? So, I mean, they're both pretty good memory things, but you know, this one's more expensive, I think. So, fine. So that might be a little cheaper, the DDR6. But they're giving you better clock speeds. They're still giving you 11 gigabytes versus 12, which you might as well say that's about the same. They're giving you the tensor cores, the ray tracing cores, I guess, if they were even on there. I know the tensor cores were on there. For less than half. Not even half, but less than half. $300 less than half. So I don't understand how people can say that's not a freaking good price. I mean, that's crazy. And nobody complained about the Titan X or the Titan. Well, the first Titan people complained about, but there wasn't as much complaining about the Titan X. People were just like, oh, it's a Titan X, it's the fastest card on the planet. So yeah, they're going to charge a lot of money for it. So why is something different here? The RTX 2080 Ti is the fastest card on the planet. In fact, it's not just the fastest card on the planet, but it's the fastest card on the planet by a long shot. You know? AMD is going to be hard-pressed to try to even make a card that performs like the 2080 Ti, even on the 7 nanometer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it would be great if they did that. I mean, I want AMD to. So, you know, so the reason why I left AMD, I never finished the point earlier, is because I put my faith and my trust in them year after year after year after year after year after year. That they're going to bring out something better, that they're going to bring out something great, that they're going to bring out this, that they're going to bring out that. And then with the video cards too, they were making promises over and over and over, you know. But it was pretty apparent that 2 years ago they weren't really able to do much more than they were doing, you know, and they didn't really do anything. The Vega cards were good, but they weren't great, you know. They weren't better than Nvidia's. So anyway, so that's all I got to say. I guess I think I made all the points I wanted to make. Maybe nobody will even listen to this. I don't know. But I just wanted to say things that I don't hear other people talking about. All I hear is complain, complain, complain. You know? And I don't understand that because people weren't complaining about AMD when they brought out their dual GPU card. Everybody was like, "Oh wow, look at that card! It just kills Nvidia." You know, like that's all they were really all they cared about was that they beat Nvidia, but they didn't really complain about the price. You know, at least not to the extent that they're ripping into Nvidia. You know, yes, there was people that were like, "Wow, that's expensive," you know, but everybody was like justifying it because it was two GPUs on one card. Well, guess what? Nvidia didn't have to put two GPUs anymore on their cards because their regular cards were performing very well, you know, for what they were and for the price, you know. So, you know, AMD can bring out all the low crap they want and then charge nothing for it. And then you could say, "Oh, well, look at that $200 card. Price per performance, price per performance, you know. Look at Nvidia, $500 card or $600 card. The price per performance does not equal the price per performance of the $200 card." You know, so it's not, you know, scaling, they're saying, people are saying. But that's not how it works. A better product is more money usually. Sony is proof of that. When they sold their Bravia TVs originally, my God, they were expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like really expensive. Like more expensive than I thought they were really worth, even for the technology of the time. You know, like I think when they first came out, they were like $6,000 or $7,000. You know, and that was like for like a 39 or 40-inch TV or something like that. I was like, what? But you know, no one complains about that. And that doesn't even like get you to enjoy playing games. It's just a TV. Just something that you look at pictures on. You know what I'm saying? That to me that doesn't even like equal a video card. A video card to me is more important than an expensive TV. You know, because you can still make a cheap TV look pretty good if you have a good graphics card and processor. You know, so same thing with vehicles. People will pay 30, 35, $40,000 for cars that have the best, you know, lots of bells and whistles, and maybe even quality is a little better, you know. And no one complains about that. I don't see people going online and going, "Oh, them freaking cars are so expensive, man," when that's actually a good argument. Cars are way overpriced today, in my personal opinion. Like, no car should cost $40,000. I don't care what it is. You know, that's a very expensive thing, you know? So, you know, no one like is up in arms about that. You know? If you want the top of the line, then you're going to pay top of the line prices. And right now, whether people want to believe it or not, Nvidia has top of the line products right now. And whether people want to admit it about Intel, Intel still is the top dog in the processor department. You're going to pay top dollar for top of the line products. That's just the way it is. Now, I do agree that Intel charges a lot for their processors. I mean, they always have. So I don't know what all the complaints are about. Intel always charges a lot for their processors. In fact, they were charging a lot for half of what AMD was offering. AMD had 8 cores, Intel was still only selling 4-core processors. Why? How come they got away with that? Because of Intel fanboyism? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. It was simply because they perform better in games, you know? And maybe some other things too because of the higher clock speeds and the better IPC or whatever you call that, you know? AMD was skimping out to try to keep the prices low. They didn't have the research and development that they needed to really like think up new innovative ways. I mean, they should have had Ryzen out, in my personal opinion, years before it came out. And Intel, all they did was just, they had a good product 8 years ago. You know? In fact, so good that they were able to just keep selling it for the next 8 years and shrinking the die a little bit here and there and ramping up those clock speeds. So, you know, Intel didn't do anything wrong here. They had a great product that they were able to squeeze the most out of. And they're still doing it now with the 9900 series. You know? And they just kind of changed some of the, you know, whatever, how they programmed them, obviously. So they just made little improvements to them. You know? Just to kind of like beat the competition. Because AMD just didn't have anything to compete against. So that's it. Anyway, you know, I don't know if I want to call this a rant, but it's just my viewpoint on the whole thing. And I think the YouTubers and tech sites are just blowing everything out of proportion. You know, they're just feeding the naysayers. You know, I'm not saying that they don't do good work or that they don't know their stuff or that they don't, you know, have good opinions sometimes and also find out some shabby thing, you know, scammy things sometimes like Intel and their benchmarks for the 9900K. You know, I'm glad that Steve from Gamer Nexus brought that out and, you know, the other guy from Steve's Hardware. So, or Hardware Unboxed or whatever it is. Anyway, yeah, so, but all this like complaining, attacking Nvidia is just silly. It's unwarranted. It is. The RTX cards are good, and they're priced well. You know, the Nvidia always charged a lot for their top tier card, and the 2080 Ti is basically a Titan V that performs even better for less than half the price. So that's the thing that really blew my mind to begin. Like, yeah, you can kind of like complain about the 2080 if you want. You know, it performs the same as the 1080 Ti. A little bit better, maybe. And, you know, they kind of put the RTX cores or the Turing, whatever, the RTX junk in it. Ray tracing stuff. You know, maybe they should have brought out like an RTX version and a basic version that didn't have the tensor cores on it or whatever. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But I mean, obviously they can't work on two things at once. You know, so, and you know, they only had so much GDDR6 to work with. So again, I think Nvidia just made a smart move by just going ahead and with this experiment right now. And I hope it works out for them. I hope it works out for us, you know. If it doesn't work out for us, well, what are you going to do? The RTX cards still perform well, though, you know. So at least you can say they didn't perform any worse, you know. And the RTX 2070, from what I've been hearing, actually performs 10 or 15% better than the 1080 does. So that's good for about the same price. So Nvidia kind of squished those three cards into like a very small window there. So they're going to have a lot of room to play with now from the RTX 2070 below. And that's not going to be good for AMD because now their 2060 card is going to perform like a 1070 does. Probably. I'm guessing. So how is AMD going to compete with that? I mean, it's just it's ugly. It looks very ugly what's coming. You know, I don't think AMD is going to have anything unless they really have been keeping something so super secret that nobody knows about it. You know, just by saying 7 nanometer, that doesn't guarantee that they're going to bring out a great product. That just means they're going to bring something out on 7 nanometer. You know what I'm saying? So if they don't bring out something on 7 nanometer in the video card section and the processor section, then they're not really doing anything better than they've done. They're not gonna force the competition to lower their prices, you know? And this is what I don't hear anyone really talking about. And if Nvidia is right around the corner with 7 nanometer, and Intel is going to be around the corner in 10 nanometer or 7 nanometer, then AMD has to have a trick up their sleeve. They have to have a secret weapon that they're going to come out with on both fronts, because they're not going to be able to compete with both unless they can do that, you know? So anyway, guys, thanks for putting up with me. Again, let me know in the comments if you come across this video what you think about what I said and maybe your opinions on the matter. I'm not saying that I'm right about everything I said, but this is just how I see things, you know? This is my perspective on it. So, you know, I'm not saying that people that buy AMD cards are bad consumers. I'm not. I game at 4K. I do video editing. I do all these things that require me to have a pretty good system. But if I'm going to be my gaming, when I game, I want it to be good looking. I want it to run smooth, you know? I want it at the highest frames possible, but I don't have to have 144 or 240. I mean, that's just overkill really for what I do. So that's just kind of wasting money. If I can do a solid 60 frames per second on my 4K set, I'm good. You know, it's crystal clear to me. So, and I only have a TV I'm using anyway. I may down the line, or maybe soon if I can get one cheap. If I can look around and find those deals, then I'll buy a 4K monitor that has capability of going at a higher refresh rate. But I don't think there's any that are out there besides the Nvidia ones. I'll have to look at that. Alright, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for, if you stuck with this whole video, then wow, I'm impressed. But, and I hope that people do stick with listening to this whole thing, because we saw that video card prices really haven't changed when it comes to pricing. Yes, there is a little bit of a difference. But all the high-end cards were sold at expensive prices for their time, you know? I mean, that's what you have to look at. even though the inflation calculator was saying that that wasn't really accurate in my opinion, because when you buy the third party cards and all that stuff, they really wrecked on the price. That was just the basic manufacturer's price, that they were talking about. So even though the card was $499 back then, that was the base model. So when you got into the third parties, they were putting on those nice fans and stuff and all that. That would ramp up the price another 50, $100. So it's really not different if you really look at it. Um, so all right, peace, guys. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked any of this information or just enjoyed it. I didn't do it fancy or anything. I was just kind of browsing on the internet to show you what I was talking about. Um, so anyway, you got my social media sites on there too. My Patreon, if you want to just whatever donate, that's up to you. Not asking for it. Although it would be nice to get some donations finally after a couple of years. I'm going to try to get back to gaming, especially with my new system. In fact, I know after I build this thing back here, um, I'm going to start going back and ramping all my games up, every single one to Ultra. I'm going to go back a couple years and see how high we can put some of these games. All right. Peace. God bless. Love y'all. Bye.